Hey everybody, welcome back to Dave and Will's Guitar. Thanks for being here, I really appreciate it. Well, today I wanted to talk about something a little different. Normally we do guitar reviews and a bunch of other stuff, but I really just wanted to talk about the state of certain brands and guitar in general. So my idea I had that I've kind of seen populate through the internet, so it's an idea I had about it, right? Not that I was creating this one on my own, that I'm some masterful idea creator. Yeah, that. I wanted to talk about Fender and Gibson and some of the problems I think they're going to face in the future. I don't think Fender and Gibson are going to have the same market power that they did, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Fender probably more so than Gibson, but unless things change, I just don't think that they're going to have the same kind of impact, and given the way that things are happening with manufacturing and labor and just things across the board, I think it's going to be pretty tough for some of these companies. First thing I wanted to think about is, like, when I was young and I had guitar heroes, there were people playing, Fender and Gibson guitars. And even then, not so much, because that's, that was like the 90s. But, we had like Kurt Cobain up there with a Fender Jag. And so, yeah, there are some pretty cool guitars then that are still the same, like, expensive guitars that we know and love today. But things have changed. And I think some of it is the price, and some of it is like the appeal and how that's really fostering into the newer generations. So when I think about Fender and Gibson, the first thing you think, well, when you're a starting guitarist, right, you probably can't go out or convince your parents to go buy you a Fender or a Gibson. They're very expensive. Well, at least more expensive than their counterparts. And especially if you're learning, it's hard to get mom and dad to want to go out there and buy you a very expensive guitar if you're not even sure you're going to like it or stick with it. So you're probably going to go out there and you're going to get a Fender you're going to get an Epiphone or a Squier, right? Those are your two budget entry options. But one thing I'll say is that there is a delineation, right? By the simple fact that there are two brands that are under the same umbrella, right? You have a Fender or you have a Squier. You have an Epiphone or you have a Gibson. And I'm sure there's some diehard Epiphone fans. People probably like the Beatles, love the Epiphone Casino, right? That was like a mainstay before they were under one umbrella. Or like, maybe there's some people who are just like, I just play Squiers, man, completely happy, I'll never want a Fender. I don't need Fender necessarily. And that's respectable and commendable, but overall what that says to me is the brand is telling you, one is not as good as the other. And the price indicates that. If price indicates anything, it should indicate quality. It doesn't always. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't. Well, there's many instances it doesn't. It's hard to want to be excited about someone selling you a Squier when you know it doesn't play or have the features that are quite as good as the Fender version, and you're stuck with that. And they tell you okay, maybe you can't have this one, but if you save your money and you work really hard, you can go get a Fender. It's gonna be so much better. But is it really gonna be so much better? Well, that's kind of what I'm holding or demonstrating today. This is a made in Mexico Fender Strat. And while it sounds good, has different pickups in it now, but it sounded fine with the other pickups. It sounded good, actually. It's not necessarily the best guitar I've ever played, and certainly not even the best Fender Strat or Stratocaster type of guitar I've played, even amongst similar quality priced guitars. I mean, this guitar is right around, somewhere around $1,000, or get them used, whatever. Even a little more expensive than that, depending what guitar you're getting out of Mexico from the Made in Mexico factory. That for that price, it's hard to justify getting a guitar that is not substantially better than your $300 Squier, right? Or getting a $300 Epiphone or $400 or $500 Epiphone, and then trying to get into your entry-level Gibson, and you're talking about spending $1,400. I mean, that is crazy. I mean, that guitar better be substantially better. But that's the thing with guitars is, the name changes, but the quality might not necessarily change. And it's something that really bothers me. Recently I've worked on a few made in Mexico Strats, and they all have the same problems. Fret sprout, nut isn't cut very well. Bent steel saddles have grub screws that are too tall, that are shred your hands. They could just give you more grub screws to fix that. They could just include them. It's probably $1 with the grub screws to put in a pack and make sure they're low enough to where when you're adjusting the action that your hand isn't getting shredded because they're too tall. It's just simple things like that that really irritate me. We put locking tuners on here, not because we needed locking tuners, just because the guitar had really crappy tuners on it. Yeah, I just don't get it. I just have a hard time thinking like, okay, you know, what's going to get me in? What's going to get me into the next highest tier of Fender or whatever? Like, what was my budget option versus the expensive option? What's the difference? Am I really getting that good of a quality of guitar for that jump? And I don't think the answer is yes. I mean, my first guitar, electric guitar, was a Squire Bullet, and that was a garbage guitar. I mean, it was terrible. In fact, it made me not want to play guitar. That's how bad it was. So, yeah, I mean, there's just, you know, between the fret sprout, uneven frets, bad tuners, the trem sucked. I mean, everything, the nut was not cut well. I mean, I can't believe they would sell that and call it like, that represents your brand. Why don't you want to put your best foot forward and be like, hey, you like this one, maybe you'll like the even better one. Do they make it worse on purpose almost? I don't know. And I feel like Epiphone's in the same line. I mean, now don't get me wrong, I've had three Epiphones, and one was not great, but the other two were pretty good. But those are also, you know, a little more expensive. They were like $500-600-ish. I think the most expensive one was $700. But I should expect that from a $700 guitar. I should expect that I play something that I enjoy and it should sound good and feel good. And that's not always the case anymore. I mean, I've had to, I think both the Epiphones, actually all three of the Epiphones had frets that were not perfectly level. Should I expect that? I think I should. I mean, if you were going to go out and buy a new car, let's say you're out there, you're buying a new car. Let's say you're buying a budget new car. You're buying like a cheap Kia or you know, no cars are cheap anymore, but like, let's say you're trying to buy the most affordable car. Let's say they have this car, it's like, oh, the engine runs well, the lights work, everything's fantastic. You've got a great stereo system in it, it's safe, but man, the tires, they just don't work. They're just not good. They wobble. They need, like, you gotta go get it set up right when you buy it. That's kind of what a guitar feels like, right? You buy a guitar, it doesn't matter what guitar, you have to go get it set up. Like, you just need a setup. That's ridiculous. There's no other hobby out there, or even like something that you want to buy that like doesn't come out of the box that's like ready for you to use as like a sold as is instrument, right? You could buy like a kick guitar that you clearly have to build, but like these guitars are sold to you as something ready to play. It just really infuriates me that like, it doesn't matter if you buy a high-end Gibson or a cheaper Epiphone or Fender or Squire, you're still gonna have to get it set up. So why even bother? You know, why, you know, you're still gonna have someone dial in most of the playability parts of the guitar that matter the most. Why not look for a cheaper alternative? Oh, well, it's gotta say Gibson, it's gotta sound like a Gibson. And don't get me wrong, Gibson and Fender guitars have amazing sounding pickups. In fact, I think that's their strength, is most of them sound really good. It's hard to get away from those sounds because they do sound so good. But man, some of these guitars are just plagued by the same issues they've always had. And whether it's their budget line or their cheaper line. Like the fact that most Fender guitars come with this crappy heel joint drives me crazy. Like, it's not the worst heel joint, it's not the most terrible thing in the world, but why not taper this? Why not? You're getting it cut from a CNC machine. Just plug in the CNC machine, have this tapered. Like, do it. It makes the guitar better. It feels better to play. That's what I want. I don't think anyone would argue. No one's gonna say like, I need this to be really fat and blocky. Some people will. There's always like one person out there that says that. But there's higher end features that are not very expensive that you could find on other off-brand budget guitars that have these things that Fender and Gibson and Squire and Epiphone are not offering. And that really bothers me. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, Squire and Epiphone, they are not selling you guitars that say Fender or Gibson for a reason. And I think that we need to realize that, you know, companies are not out here this is going to be maybe a little inflammatory. Companies are not out there to sell you the best product anymore. And I think we recognize that. You should think of that, even regardless of where you are, American, China, doesn't matter. Companies are out there to make money, and they want you to buy their product by whatever means they can get you to buy it. They want you to buy it and they want you to keep it. That's what they want. They don't want you to return it. So whatever that means, that is what their goal is. They're like, just like Fender. Fender is not, and this goes for every company, Fender, Squire, Epiphone, they're not necessarily selling you the best guitar they could make. They are not interested in doing that. That is why there's a tiered system where some guitars are better than others. They're not trying to sell you the best guitar you can buy. They're trying to sell you a guitar you will buy. So they will do their best to tell you that like, hey man, we've got like 45 different Strats for sale, and this one sounds a little different than that one. Where them dollars? That other one you bought, it's not gonna work if you're playing this weird off-brand neo jazz soul tuning blues lick thing, acid prog rock, you know, that weird combination. You just have to have this pickup, man. And so I think it's just crap. I mean, frankly, I think that attitude is dookie. Buy the guitar that you think sounds good, and don't let anyone tell you what a guitar should or shouldn't sound like, or what a good guitar is or isn't. You pick it up, you play it, you like it, and feels good to play, that's the guitar for you. I think we've let too many brands into our identity and into who we think we are, who we should be, or what it means to be a guitarist or whatever. And it's influencing us in such a way that we no longer think of the music first, we think of like, well, what's in your hands, you know? And there's judgment there. There's always judgment there. I know that as a guitarist myself, like I'm always interested to see what people are playing on stage. And it's not necessarily a negative judgment. I'm not saying like, oh, that guy's an idiot. No, I mean, I'm just thinking like, why did he pick that? You know, what sold him on that guitar? I would hope that any guitarist I see that plays guitar is just like, I picked it up, I played it, and I liked it. That is enough. That's all you need to say. You know, you don't have to justify it with anything else. But I would like for a company to represent that by giving us the best foot forward, the best product they could, and the only difference in price should be the cost of making that guitar. Whew. So what are other brands doing? Well, when we think about like other brands that are more budget friendly, like Sire, Firefly, Jet, Leo James, some of those are way, way more budget, PRS even, and PRS has really expensive guitars. I did not call them only budget. Those guitars come at a price point that give you a lot of features and a lot of good quality control like instruments that are worth owning and probably outperform a lot of the Squier and Epiphones. And I think they have to do that, because how else are they going to entice you, right? They have to give you something. I would argue that this Firefly behind me, that is a Les Paul shape, is every bit as good as a Les Paul. And that came out of the box that way. I did not do any crazy setup. The only thing I did was polish the frets because they were a little gritty. They'd probably been sitting in like a shipping container forever. And I put a new bridge on, but that did not need a new bridge. I just had a better bridge laying around that fit it, so I slammed it on there, and that was it. And it took like 2 seconds. I didn't need to be a luthier to do that. So I would say that guitar for like 270 bucks or whatever, played for 240, I can't remember, is every bit as good as any of the Gibsons that I've played. And today, you know, I went to a Guitar Center and I played a bunch of Gibsons actually. And so some of them were very good and some of them were dookie. So I hate that the quality control amongst instruments is so varied. I mean that, and now granted, it's in a Guitar Center. These poor instruments have been abused. Like when you pick one up, they like almost recoil. They shake like a dog at an SPCA. Like they're like, don't touch me. You're gonna hurt me. There's like, they see a kid running around. They're like, he's gonna pick his nose and then play me. It's gonna feel gross. The guitars are like, they're just like, oh, anyway. Sorry, that was a tangent, but that's what they seem like. I mean, I picked up a Gibson today and it had like a broken like volume knob. I'm like, how do you split a volume knob? How do you crack it like on the knob? Like you have to drop it in such a specific way. It was truly amazing. Aside from that, I mean, ones that were not like visually abused, like some of them just played like dookie. They just weren't good. And it's hard for me to want to buy into a guitar brand. And I've seen this on other YouTube channels. They're like, oh, you know, every Gibson is unique, every Fender's unique. And yes, that's true, but they don't have to be so unique that some play like crap and some play great. All guitars you should buy off the store brand new should play great, I mean, theoretically. And this is why, you know, when I pick up PRS, I'm generally pretty pleased because most of the time they do play really great and they have a lot more consistency amongst the brand. The fact that I can pick up one, I know it's good, and I just have to worry about whether or not I like the sound is a much more pleasant feeling in a store than picking up and be like, oh, I gotta find my magical unicorn magic wand. I've gotta go find my, I'm like Harry Potter looking for a wand or something. I don't know what to make the equivalency to, but I don't want to have to hunt through a bunch of crap to find the diamond in the rough, right? I just want to pick up a guitar, I want it to be good, I want to decide if I like it via the sound, and that's it. Now, granted, there's some other personal preferences like neck shape, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about purely playability issues like fret sprout, bad tuners, intonation, or like a tuning stability because of the nut, things that like should be there out of the box. That's what I'm talking about. One thing, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, is what you're getting for the cost. Like if I buy a budget brand, let's talk about just the Les Paul. In fact, let me get this one over here. Now, I've owned a Gibson, we've had a Gibson in the house, and I didn't keep it because it was just too heavy. And this guitar weighs about 8.5 pounds, which is much lighter than the 11-pound Les Paul I had prior. I had a Gibson Les Paul Classic, and it was very, very heavy, and I did not enjoy it. This guitar is a Firefly that came great out of the box. It was $240, and I haven't changed anything except for the bridge. It didn't need it, like I said earlier. But this offers so many more features that if I were to buy these on a Gibson, there's no way they could sell me a guitar this good for anything short of $4,000. It has a bone nut. Now they offer tusk nut, but bone, I'm very happy with that. There's no problem. It has locking tuners, which you only find on premium Les Paul brands, like Gibson brands. It has stainless steel frets, which they don't offer. It does not have fret nibs, but it has the rounded off edges on the frets, and the frets don't even go to the full edge of the fretboard, so there's no fret sprout. Nothing can like poke me out. It's got a roasted flame maple neck with a volute, so it doesn't break. Yeah, I mean, all these features are just killer. Comfort carve here and a tapered heel joint. So I don't have like this bump out that feels uncomfortable to play. I mean, those features alone on a Gibson would easily, like the closest thing I have is like a Les Paul Supreme or maybe a Modern, and I don't even think they feel as good. And they certainly don't have stainless steel frets, but that's like the closest you can get. And this, again, $240 versus $3,000. I could throw a set of Gibson pickups in here, and I'd be surprised if anyone on the internet, like with a blind sound test, could even identify that this wasn't a Les Paul if you didn't see it, like a Gibson Les Paul. So yeah, it's hard to justify those really expensive guitars when you could just get something that's more budget friendly, put a little work into it, and then you're gonna have a better or equivalent guitar than what you could buy at, from Gibson or Fender. One last thing I wanted to talk about as far as like the other brands, I think this was stated on some other channels, but like, Gibson has all these like $20,000, $30,000 guitars, or signature one-off guitars, or they're like historic, iconic $1,000 pickups that are just ridiculous, like just a bunch of copper wire wrapped around a bobbin, and they're selling them for so much money. I mean, they're trying to do that throwback thing like that other company, like Throwbacks, right? Those pickups that are super expensive. I just don't see this being something that's sustainable amongst generations that have no money. And if those generations have no money and aren't buying them, and they don't have like an affinity for your product because they were never able to afford it in the past, like as a younger person, when they get older and maybe have money, they're certainly not going to buy it when they're older and do have money. Nowadays we see all these new bands coming out, and some of them play Fenders and some don't. So, where are the bands going to be that play music that we listen to in the future? What are these bands? Are they going to play Fenders? Are they going to play Gibsons? I think about like the band Geese. They do have, I think Cameron Winter, the lead singer, I think he plays an SG. I think he has an SG, but his primary guitar is not an SG, and the lead guitarist plays Reverend guitars. There's a lot of other younger bands that are playing. I don't know, Yvette Young and Covet, she plays Ibanez. I mean, that's a big brand, but not as big as like Gibson and Fender. There's just a lot of younger bands now that are not, playing the same Fender and Gibson guitars. And what is that going to mean for the generation that looks up to them? Are they going to want to go buy those? Like they're going to buy Ibanez's and Reverends and other brands? I mean, who knows? What's the longevity looks like if they don't have the same iconic name brand recognition? Something I'm thinking like might worry those companies. I know Fender has done a little bit better of a job. They had that band Dive, that shoegaze band that's fairly popular. They got a lot of followers, and I like their music a lot. But they play Fender, and they had a Fender spot. So good on them. But I don't like. The only band I can really think that's like pushing like Gibson products is like Greta Van Fleet, and if you listen to, I looked up I was like, what is the average age of a Greta Van Fleet listener? It is not like under 30. I can guarantee you it's over 30. Like that is some Led Zeppelin-esque music and rock, like arena rock stuff, and yeah, like they're playing SGs, they're playing Gibsons. A lot of them, I think all the brothers, like a few of them have Gibsons, but man, they're catering to a certain crowd, not a younger crowd. So yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like in the future if these younger bands are not playing your instruments. I think if I was Fender or Gibson, I would be like, where can we find the most young, popular bands and get them to play our instruments, put our instruments in their hands. That is going to sell your guitars, definitely. Get out on YouTube. Where are people consuming guitar content? It's not through magazines anymore, man. It's on the internet, and it's the bands. And if you're not marketing to those groups, I don't know what you're doing, man. You're gonna have a real bad time, I think, in the future. So, yeah. Well, guys, I think that concludes my thoughts on Fender and Gibson. I think that does conclude all the ideas I had. So what do you guys think? Do you think Fender and Gibson are really killing it out there? Am I missing a whole bunch? I mean, I'm not an expert, so maybe I don't know anything. What do you guys think? Is it going to be a budget guitar future, or are people going to buy more affordable stuff? I mean, you know, people will love to tell you that the Gibson has always been the same price, and they've saved consistency. If you look at the price from when they started to what they're doing now, if you just adjust for the cost of inflation, they're the same. Yeah, but like, they're also not building guitars by hand like they used to either. They have CNC machines and machine parts coming from like China. You know, even though your guitar is made in America, like, do you think that Grover tuners and the stop bar tailpiece and all these other places, do you think they're pouring that metal in America? They are not. Those are coming from overseas, and they're using CNC machines to cut those guitars. What I'm getting at is manufacturing has changed a lot. And I've worked in a few different manufacturing plants, making a variety of products. I don't want to get into it, but when the production level and the scale and the technology like has improved or increased, then products should get cheaper. They shouldn't get more expensive. And I know they've stayed the same, but like, they use CNC machines. They're not carving guitars by hand. They're not doing anything like that anymore. They are, you know, they're not pouring the metal for a stop bar tailpiece. They're buying tuners overseas. They're buying their tailpieces overseas. They're buying their bridges overseas. The only thing they might be doing is winding the pickup, and even the parts to make the pickup, they're buying those overseas too. Do you think the copper wire is being made in America? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. So yeah, I mean, even though, yes, it's assembled and put together and maybe a little bit machined in America, it's not fully made in America, and their process has got to be much cheaper than it used to be, for sure. So anyway, guys, I think we've hit all the major issues that I wanted to talk about today. What do you guys think about Fender and Gibson? That's the next question. Are they making great quality instruments and I just don't know, and like, maybe their quality control has changed drastically? I mean, I still think they do make some very good instruments here and there, but I don't think it's the best instruments compared to some of the other brands. I don't even think they're that far apart. Maybe some are better, some aren't, you know. I guess that's the question. What are you guys going to buy with your next dollar? Is it going to be a Fender, or is it going to be a Gibson?